Yeah.
Hold on, you don't have any good put your boy on your intro. Where's your
Oh,
music?
yeah, I got it. I hope it works. I've been having
The wild ass
problems.
dude,
Yeah.
was it from LA?
Yeah, yeah. No, he's from Northern California. Northern
Okay, well,
California.
give me some wild and dude, is that your bike?
Yeah, that's my bike. Yep.
What model is that?
That's a Buell. It's called a Buell XB9 SX. So, a guy
N
named Eric Buell, he was a racer. He was like a street racer, and
no
he
way.
started putting Harley engines into like sport bikes essentially.
No.
And Harley liked it, so they like bought his company and like helped him make them. And then they stopped making them in like 2009. And then recently somebody just bought the company and revived it, but like the revived model's not really the same. Like the guy was a genius. Like I don't throw that word around lightly very often, but this guy was
Right.
like a fucking genius. So what he did is like there was so much like engine to cram into these small bikes that he had to make room somehow. So like this isn't the
Really?
fuel tank. This is the air
What is
filter.
you're kidding.
Yeah, so the air filter's up here. The fuel is in the frame, and then the oil is actually in the rear swing arm.
Dude, he reminds me he's an offspring of the NASCAR great mechanic Smokey Yunick.
Oh, I'm not
They
familiar.
dude, they had to ban him from the racetrack. He was that evil in design.
Really? Yeah, I know
He
they've done that with some like F1
Yeah.
shit too, where like some people have come up with some crazy fans that like keep the cars down tight to the ground and they're like, no, 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 we're not doing that.
Yes, yes.
All right,
Dude,
let me
it
run the
it's
music and see if
the
this is gonna
craziest
work. Like I've been having problems with my system lately. That's why my headphones weren't working. So let's hope
I
this
I need
works.
I need a vibe from your bro
All right, here we
from
go.
the big ass Northwest.
Can you hear it?
I
Nah, I
cannot.
can't hear it either.
Uh,
I'm gonna have to do
let's
some
forget it.
yeah, I'm
But
gonna have to
dude,
do some investigation on that. I don't know what's going
I
on.
I have something on my heart before we start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dude, things since you and I met, and I really loved that first show, that was
Yeah, it was
so
great.
fresh. But dude, things are so exciting now. I think a title, once you post this incredible recording we're about to do, should be WW3 Armageddon 666 Palantir Fun Book, Coloring Fun Book. We are
666
there, brother. It is
coloring
kinetic.
book. That's a great episode.
Just dumbass. Put it up, because everyone, when they went to school pre-K, you had start out coloring, right, with a
Yeah, yeah.
crayon. Come on, dude. It is. We're having fun now.
Oh, yeah. Dude, so I saw a clip the other and we're recording right now, so we're good to go.
Good, good, good,
I
good.
saw a clip the other day and like, dude, the guy who runs ChatGPT is such a freaking weirdo. Like, he
Really?
oh, dude, there was this clip. He was like on some stage with like tons of people around him. And this is like the anointed group of like tech billionaires that are like all in. Like, this guy didn't do this talk to like talk to us. Like, he's
Yeah,
talking to the people that are going to give him money and use his products type of thing. So, like, this was like
right.
for the anointed. This was not for us to see. And it's not because like the way he's talking, he's like, "Oh yeah, people aren't going to have agency in the future. There's going to be no privacy. You're not going to have access. You're not going to work. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to be slaves." And he's just like saying this with a straight face on a stage like, "Holy shit, like how I don't understand like when I used to watch that type of stuff back before I kind of like really figured out what was going on in the world, I would look at that and go, "Who is this guy talking to? Like, eh, does he want like fires and pitchforks at the gates of his company?" But then I realized, like, oh, he's not talking to us. Like, he doesn't care about us. He's not like looking to soothe us and make us think that his product is going to make our lives any better. He's talking to the group of people who are going to get their lives better from this and just turn us into cattle.
That's good intel, Nick. I did not know that.
Yeah. It was creepy. It was creepy.
But I have this for you, my brother. I think it was Charles Dickens who wrote a book once or a play, and he said, I think it was over there in England, he said, it was the best of times,
The worst of
the
times.
worst of times,
Yeah.
right? Okay, nothing's changed. The same situation, Nick, is before everyone every day that God gives them cognition.
Yeah.
So people are going to probably come across this conversation. They're going to say, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
But they're going to leave. They're going to hear some incredible
Yeah.
nightmares. But what they're also going to be fueled up. This is a pit stop for their minds because it is 4th and 30, and we have 3 seconds.
Yeah. For
We're
sure.
we're 5 points behind, and this is it, bro. This to put it to you. Remember high school where football was like the cult to be in.
Mhm.
This is our last. We're seniors on our high school football team, bro. This is the last play. We're 5 points behind, 4th and 30, 3 seconds to go. Bro, this is the last time we'll be
Yeah.
in high school with them
Last
today.
stand. Last
This is
stand
it.
shit. This is
This
the
is it,
this is the
bro.
Spartans 300 type shit. And like
Mhm.
when you say best of times, worst of times, like you can see that illustrated on Twitter every day. Like there's so much horrible shit going on, especially like you could apply that to AI in so many different ways. So like AI right now is it's essentially this like new technology that they're, creating to fence us in even tighter. Like Americans have been fenced in over the past 250 years and the fence just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is like when they electrify the fence. Like the AI is going to get plugged into the fence and it's going to electrify it. But it's also being used for good in a lot of ways. Like if you go on Twitter right now, you can see tons and tons of AI videos that are just like ripping the establishment, making fun of, the government, making fun of these tech weirdos. Like they're using their own product against them. Like I got a message from a guy on Podmatch, the service we met on the other day. And like the guy was creating a new social media site and he's like, there's no AI on this site. We check everything for AI. And I was just like, like if you're advertising on a small podcast like that, you have zero chance of like actually doing anything with a social media platform. And B, like, I don't want to get rid of AI content. Like AI accounts, maybe. Like I don't necessarily like want AI bots flooding the internet with whatever their programmers are like programming them to post. But like as far as normal people using it, I think it's a good thing in a lot of ways. And like AI can be used for good and evil. And a lot of the things like, so like I am a libertarian. I'm into Austrian economics. Like I think that Austrian economics is the only like true economic principles like within the world. And they just kind of fall on basic principles that if anybody like looked into it for a little while, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's just how the world works. It's like not even a
Exactly.
science. It's like a fact essentially. You know what I mean? And so
It's
like,
like natural law.
yeah, natural law, exactly. Natural law of
Yes.
economics. And so like you don't learn anything about economics in school. They don't want you to know anything about economics because they don't want you to know how to fight against, the tyranny and them extracting wealth from the lower and middle classes and bring it to the upper class. Like that's why Jim Cramer exists. He exists to steal people's money, he'll get people on the hook and they'll make a little bit of money here and there in the market. And then on, when the business cycle shifts and it goes into that crash period, boom, all of that wealth that you made in the short term is all fucking gone. And like that's his deal. But like you can go on to ChatGPT or Grok and you can ask it about real economics and it'll give you real answers. These are things
Right.
that your teachers in high school or your teachers, like when I went to college and I took economics classes, I was like, this should be interesting. My microeconomics class. I'm like, like in Austrian economics, there's no such thing as macroeconomics. Basically, it derives through praxeology, which is the study of human action. Humans act, and essentially, like it states that you cannot model large groups of people because humans act, individually. They have autonomy, they have agency, and you're not going to be able to like model their large things. That's why, like in Soviet Russia, when you had all these bureaucrats setting prices for things, you know what they used to set prices? Sears
No.
Roebuck. They couldn't figure out how
What?
to set a price for anything, so they bought the Sears Roebuck catalog and they priced based on Sears because they were dumb. They didn't know anything about economics, so they couldn't figure out how to price anything. So essentially, like,
Are you kidding me?
yeah, and like this is kind of secret knowledge in a way. Just basic economics at this point
Oh,
is
shit.
secret knowledge for normal people. You know what I mean?
That's
And you
funny.
can get that secret knowledge if you know the right questions to ask. And like that is a very dangerous thing for the establishment.
Oh, yeah. That's the recipe.
Isn't that crazy that they use the Sears catalog? I heard that on a podcast the other day and I was like, no fucking way that's true. And I looked it up on
Well,
the internet and it was like, oh yeah, they had no idea how to price things. So they just used the Sears catalog.
the Sears catalog, may it forever be remembered. What a testament to human organization. I was
Yeah.
always impressed as a 12-year-old boy in 1972 that Sears would have 58 pages on women's support garments.
Yeah.
This was an amazing development.
And then on the next page, you get guns.
Literally,
I
and the
have an old
catalog
Sears Roebuck catalog in my house just because I like old magazines.
dude, that is art. The
Yeah.
Sears catalog had to weigh 8
Yeah.
pounds. It had to be
Oh, it's
this
huge. It's like a
thick.
phone book.
It was in color, dude,
Mhm.
every page.
Yeah. It's crazy. And now that company's gone. That just shows like how quick technologies can turn, like
Well, I'm
and like
first of all,
how human, action and human, like back to like Soviet Russia for a minute, and then I'll let you talk because I've been ranting for a while here. But like, when the Soviet Union collapsed, one of the coolest videos on the internet, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but everybody who's never seen it needs to go watch it. In 1991, like months after the Soviet Union collapsed, Metallica played in Moscow, and there was like a million people in the audience. There was old military helicopters flying over the top. Who knows who's in control of them now? But so like here's these people who were oppressed so fucking deeply for so many
right,
years and they just were all about, they had to act like they were all about, the Soviet Union and oh the new human man and oh communism is great. It was all an act. As soon as that thing went away, all of those people were like, we're going to see Metallica. The evil,
dude, are you
the
kidding?
evil Americans band that, people are buying their records. They're not giving, they all went and saw Metallica. It's one of the coolest videos you'll ever see because it just
You've
shows
got
like the strength of the human spirit.
get that to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I wanna see that. That has to be
It's
crazy good.
insane. It's like one of the craziest videos you'll ever see.
Well, one of the things I wanna go back to you. One of the things why I'm already feeling encouraged is you as a young man having this deep knowledge of the Austrian school. I'm sitting here learning from you aspects of that academy of thought. That is very, very good news for our species. The
Yeah.
idea that the Austrian school is living in you. You're up there in the Northwest, right?
Yeah, I'm in Idaho.
So, dude, we only need about 5 cats to have that knowledge set.
Yep.
We can turn this game around. We just need 1 fumble.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily. Easily. Like the Soviet Union did not go out with a bang. It went out with a whimper, you know? It
Exactly.
just collapsed under its own weight.
Yeah.
And that's like what could happen with our government at any time. I mean, at this point, like it's so bloated. It's spending so much money. The people are just being destroyed through inflation, Like it could just collapse at any point. Like it could go into hyperinflation or it could just fall apart and they could go, "Hey, look, like we don't have the money to ship fuel to all of our 500 military bases around the world, so we're just going to shut them
Right.
down because what else are we going to do?"
That's a very interesting analogy bloated Soviet Union
Hmm.
parasites, both not only economic parasites, but they were also spiritual,
Yes.
full spectrum satellites
Yeah.
against
Vampires.
Orthodox Russian history.
Yeah. They were vampires to the human spirit,
'Cause
you know?
really, I think Marxists there were always a dictatorial minority.
Uh-huh.
And bro, if you really take it back to the laboratory, a lot of that shit was cooked up in London to take out the East.
Yeah.
I think they
Absolutely.
took them over there in armored railroad cars in 1917,
They did.
gave him cash to wreck this USSR.
It was like when it's like so now what they do when they want to take down a regime, they have like big protests like they did in
Right, right,
Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like in Ukraine,
exactly.
they had
Victoria
that
Nuland,
leader that was coming to power that they didn't like, so they paid all these
right.
protesters to go out and make a big fuss, and they got in the guy that they want. That's when you had the Victoria Nuland fuck the EU,
Yeah,
tape leak. Like, and that's kind of what
yes.
it was at the time. It was like a paid, it was you know MI6, whoever decided to do it, hey, we're going to bring in these disruptors and just destroy this fucking country because we don't like the way they think.
And bro, look at the history of our brothers and sisters at the CIA. These people are professionals
Oh,
in
they're not my brothers and sisters. I'll tell you
well, I'm
that. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
just saying, bro, they
Yeah.
know how to F things up
Oh, yeah.
every
Yeah. Do you ever listen to John Kiriakou?
yes.
He's the man. Like people
Yes.
people say this all the time and it's not true. So they say like, "Oh, we had this illegal torture program going on in the United States all throughout the Middle Eastern wars and nobody went to jail for it." But that's not true. One person did go to jail for it, and that was
Really?
John
Yeah,
Kiriakou. He went to jail for
is
exposing it.
yeah, isn't that ironic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's shift right here. I
Sure.
wanna you
Whatever you wanna
said
talk about, go ahead.
you said something to me where I am very ignorant, and I wanna get I'm trying to I think God is leading me to speak to youth today to arm them. Now, Nick, as a habit, I stay away from short-term social media engines because it interferes with my writing cycle.
Mhm.
Example, I do not go onto Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. Facebook is the only thing I'll entertain, only usually to drop my material. Now, when you as an individual go on to Twitter, why are you doing that? What is your expectations? What are you and then finally, what are you said you were seeing some things on
Yeah.
TikTok.
I don't go on
I wanna
TikTok. I
know
go on Twitter.
what are you seeing there?
So for me, it's an unfiltered look at what's actually going on. When you watch
In real
Fox
time?
News, when you watch CNN, when you watch MSNBC, News Nation, any of these corporate media sites, you get the curated view of what's going on in the world. You
Now
get the view.
you're looking for a real-time peek
I am, and
of
I've got
what's going
my
okay.
algorithm curated to a point where, like, I'm seeing things that will never make it to the news. So, like, yesterday, my entire feed was full of Anthony Fauci testifying under Congress. You got all of these senators and congressmen just lambasting him for being a piece of shit. And he pled the fifth 111 times.
I heard.
111 times. That is crazy. If you don't have anything to hide, you have a pardon. Why are you pleading the fifth? And it looks like this is going to go to the courts because according to Rand Paul, his view on the on it is that like, hey, if you have a pardon, you no longer have a right to plead the fifth. You have to tell us what you know, and if you don't, you're obstructing Congress. So we'll see how that goes. Today something weird is going on. So today, my entire feed, and I sent this to my buddy and said, this is an op. Like, so it's two ops going on at the same time. The first op is you had thousands and thousands of Muslim North African migrants flooding the borders of Spain today. Just, it's
I've heard
crazy.
about it. I
Thousands of them flooding it. Okay. And then I go on to Twitter and I swear to God, I had 50, at least 50 of the same video posted by different people over and over and over and over and over again, and that was just all it was showing me. And I said, "Okay, first off, those people don't like they don't just organize and do this on their own. These are some of the poorest people on the planet. They don't have the ability or the knowledge to like organize this like mass push into this country like this. So somebody is giving them resources and somebody is coordinating this effort to like flood this country. So that's the first stop. The second op is that they are flooding this on social media as hard as they possibly can because they want to scare people.
Wow. Now, it was the same video, Nick?
Same video over and over and over. Different people posting it, but the same video probably 50 times. And I was just I screen recorded it and sent it to my buddy and is like, this can't be a coincidence that I'm
Right,
seeing this video over and over and
and
over again. So
that
like when I look at Twitter, like I'm looking for an unfiltered view of the world. I'm looking for people
okay,
that I
okay.
trust that are showing things that you wouldn't see otherwise. But I'm also cognizant to the fact that like there is an algorithm that is ran by people who don't fucking like me, who don't like what I stand for, who don't like what I believe in, and they're going to be showing me things that don't necessarily want to see or that they want me to see.
Right.
So I take
That's
that into account as well, you know.
so interesting, and thank you for sharing that, because 'cause that'll give me insight on how to better pour onto y'all's minds.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because really
it's interesting, man. Like there's a lot going on right now. There's, you know, this whole thing with Iran and Israel. Israel is the most unpopular it's ever been in my lifetime, and that has got a lot of people scared because that is the whole game. You know, for my entire life, it has been support Israel. They're our greatest ally. You know, we have to give them money. We have to give them weapons. We have to fight these wars on their behalf because they need to be safe in, you know, an area of the world that doesn't want them there. And the people are going, no, fuck that. Our lives are shit and we don't want to give them money and we don't want to send our children to die over there anymore. And that has got a lot of people in the government very scared because there is a lot of dual loyal ships going on in our government right now with people who just do not put America first. They put foreign countries first. And this has been the game for my entire life. And this is part of the reason that like young people can't afford a house. They can't afford a car. They have, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt and they get out of college with some bullshit degree and then go drive for Uber because that's the only job that they can get because their degrees are worthless, you know? Like young
dude,
people in this country are in horrible positions right now. Like they are just completely unable to carve out the life for themselves that their parents and their grandparents were able to do. You know, like the amount of money and like down payment it requires to just buy a normal house right now is absolutely insane. You know, like it's
yes.
just they're and what they're doing is they're fomenting rebellion and they know it. But there's also nothing they can do about it because they're going to keep playing the game. The game is to steal the lower and middle classes' money and enrich the donor class, the war party, you know, the military industrial complex. That's the game. But they've gone so far at this point that like there's not much left to take. And that is a dangerous position that you put yourself in when you have everybody, you have 100 million young Americans in this country that have their backs against the wall and nothing to lose. And that's a very dangerous situation for the ruling class to be in.
Well, you know, that you're exactly well, here's what's really yeah, let me 100% agree, Nick, and I wanna say, well, one of the things I really enjoy this is why I enjoy getting with you is because you're telling me what you're seeing with young eyes.
Mhm.
I recently detected my son's 25, I'm in his studio right now broadcasting to you. Dude, I did not know this. About 2 weeks ago, he finally spilled it to me. He and his friends in that age group, they effing hate AI.
Yeah.
They know what's happening.
Yeah.
And this is tremendously encouraging to me because this, in other words, if we have
What kind of work does your son do?
he loves food, so he's in the hospital culinary patient service area. It's a beautiful area.
Which
He's
is something they're
also
probably gonna try and automate.
well, let's go back to something you said, and this is gonna be like taking off a 6-month Band-Aid. Dude, and this horrifies my mind. They're gonna take Uber away.
Sure.
Do you realize the nightmare? One of the things I enjoy, I use Lyft and Uber quite a bit. What I do enjoy about that is the conversation with whoever I'm being driven by. Normally, it's fun because often people are from Brazil,
Mhm.
Haiti, Germany, Russia, China, whatever. We have a good conversation for the 10, 30 minute drive.
Sure.
I feel like I've had a good time. I can do business back on a phone, kinda like having your own little limo, but now they're gonna steal that from us,
Mhm.
Nick, and we're gonna have little I in fact, I don't even look forward to being driven by a damn robot.
Yeah. AI, so, like, I'm 40, so I'm a millennial. Your son's probably Gen Z, I would imagine. So, like,
Yeah.
AI is their immigrant. For us, it was the immigrant class.
Oh,
when
okay, okay.
you see what I mean? So, like, when I got out of
Yes,
high school, if you wanted to work construction, which most of the people that I went into high school with, like, they were looking at manual labor jobs, right? And,
they're pretty
you know
good, right?
yeah,
Remember?
good jobs, trade
Yeah,
work, stuff like that. And so you go into these jobs, and now all of a sudden the wages are lower because the immigrant classes come in and taken the job, and they're willing to do it for a much lower wage than the American worker is. And
right.
that's essentially what's happening to Gen Z with AI is they're bringing in some computer that's going to do the job, cheaper, not as good, but cheaper than that generation of people. And it's not good, that the best thing that you can get into right now is trades because they're not going to be able to make a robot anytime soon that is going to be able to outdo a tradesman. It's just not in the cards in the next 20, 30 years. And as far as I'm concerned, like there's problems that can't be overcome. Like you can overcome, programming issues. Like you can make a robot that, can do the job if you can program it right, but you still have battery problems. You're not going to be able to make a robot that is going to be able to work 12 hours a day, not take a lunch break, and just keep hammering the job out. Like you're going to have to plug them in. So you're going to have 3 to 5 robots or 6 robots for every person that you're replacing because you're just not going to be able to make a battery that is going to last long enough to do that job as well. And that's if they overcome the programming issues that these things, you see them on stage all the time, they just fall over. You know, like you can make a robot that like so you put a robot in your house, right? You train the robot to know what your house layout is. It knows where the kitchen is, it knows where the glasses are, it knows where everything is. Okay, you give it enough training and maybe it can figure out. So like I have a prosthetic hand, right? I can put my prosthetic hand on and make a video where I'm picking something up, putting it down, doing some cool things with it. What you don't see on the video is that I have to go through programming before the video starts. And then when I take the hand off after the video is over and put it back on to do the same task, I have to go through the programming again. And you have to keep going through the programming until it finally gets it. And like that's where we're going to be with robots in the near future where like okay, maybe you can bring one into your house and you can program it to know where everything is, but it's still not going to know how to dodge the dog, you know? The dog is running all over the place. You can't model where the dog is going to be, right? So like how are you going to program it to know where the dog is? You have to have this program that can like in real time determine
Yeah,
where the dog is going to go so I don't trip over it and fall down. You
and
so
dude,
you
what
take
if
that
what
same problem and you put it to a job site like I did line work, right? I worked on power lines. Every site is different. Every site has a
yeah,
different slope. It has a different rock
yeah,
over there. It has different terrain.
yeah,
All the poles are different. Everything has a little
yeah.
bit of a different thing. So like you're going to have to make a robot that in real time is able to like navigate a job site and determine the best way to do this job that is different than the previous job that it did. We can't even get these robots to drive on their own yet. So how do they plan on getting them to navigate a job site that is changing rapidly, constantly, all day, every day? The wind, just different little things that like people in these tech companies have never been on a job site in their entire life. They don't understand the dynamics that go into like working a trade job. And like as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be 100 years before they can build a robot that can do that as well as a human.
I think, well, let me fortify some minds. What we might be speaking tonight with somebody my age, 60 or
Sure.
above or a little bit below, may have just been laid off by one of these bubble AI ops. Here's where I'm trying to pour value, Nick. There's so much business dropping through the cracks. As capitalism 1.0, this is the empire mind using NATO CIA mercenaries in Ukraine and Iran and etc. Okay, this is what I see tonight. You're seeing two robberies, no, yeah, two robberies taking place, and it's interesting how the world works. Everybody, and you'll appreciate this as a disciple of Austrian faith, dude. You always get what you want.
Hmm.
This is a rule. So, what you see in the behavior of big equity and the international family bankers, evil vampire families out of Europe, you have two robberies going on simultaneous. They want to loot the baby boomers' trillions,
Hmm.
which is transferring every day
Yep.
for the next few. They want that money.
Hmm.
They don't want you to get that
Oh,
money, Nick. That
absolutely.
see, they want those trillions. Now, simultaneous to that, though, they can't help themselves. I'm going to give you another analogy to break it down. At the same time, they're going for the boomer trillions. This is their reset. We are in the early stages of the Davos Epstein WEF BlackRock Reset 2. It's about to get really fun in about 3 weeks when fuel will probably be in the neighborhood of $7 a gallon.
Yeah,
That's just
I
the
paid like
beginning.
4.25 in Idaho the other day.
The Sunday school hadn't even started yet.
Hmm.
Now, the next robbery going on, Nick, is absolutely crazy. They're right now kinetically trying to steal the natural wealth of Eurasia, that being Ukraine and Russia geography. There you have, sitting in the books, 125 trillion. There may be more. That's just what they know.
Hmm.
They have 125 trillion in Eurasia. In Iran, there is, I think, 60 trillion in oil and natural gas. That's just what's discovered.
Yeah.
So, what you really, let's do an analogy here, Nick. The deep state, no longer deep, it's kinetic, is using these bodies to do their reset to what they want to bring down is a crisis.
Hmm.
What they want in your hands, Nick, they want you to be on a digital ID to give you currency, which will be digital. And guess what? It's going to be dependent on how you are in terms of your relationship to carbon. They want to decarbonize the world to
Yep.
control it.
Yep. It's an
Now,
anti-industrialization cult.
yeah, well put. It's actually the hard copy of how they're going to put in a new global operating system.
Mhm. They want their
Let me
AI to have their high-tech world, and they want us to live in, single bedroom apartments with no air conditioners.
Well, they want us to actually exist as, this is very interesting. This is why cinema is so important for people to realize how valuable cinema, art, music is for your mind and soul is that the art should always, Nick, be viewed with caution as you put them into your life and mind. Because what art is going to allow you to do, Nick, is fortify your operating system. It's going to fortify you to be the man you want to be based on how your identity reflects with the art. So be cautious what you put in your mind. Be cautious what you ever notice how you have a movie you like to watch twice a year?
Mhm.
Okay. Nick, that is an artist speaking to an artist. That is software tunage to your operating system. That's almost a religious situation. Pay attention to that. There's a reason why that art, it might be a Metallica song, it might be, Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, one of his brothers. Look, art is very, very important. It's very important. And you need to incubate and curate the art you bring into your life because it will make or break you. You know this. It's
Mhm.
a binary situation. It'll break you or make you into a beautiful monster to the upside. But here's the final analogy of our conversation regarding the beautiful shitstorm planet Earth is in right now, geopolitically. On the flip side, the spiritual side, where we're rotating, it's magnificent and diamond. But and here's another thing, Nick. Never, ever, ever assume shit can't get deeper, brother.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
let me tell
No.
you something. There is no bottom to the
Mhm.
storm. You've heard the term FUBAR.
Oh, yeah. We're there. And it
Okay,
gets
we need
worse.
another word. Dude, we
Yeah.
need another word because that don't really capture where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and
here,
it
let
seems
me
like
let
we're
me
primed for another big event,
yes,
Like COVID
yes,
was not so much about a virus as it was injecting $6 trillion into the economy so we didn't go into hyperinflation, right? Like that was
yeah,
kind of the game is like we're going to shut
exactly.
the economy down, we're going to inject 6
Yeah,
trillion into the monetary system where like
yeah,
we had massive problems when they did that after the financial reset, like they injected all that money and there was massive problems for everybody. But COVID comes along, it's like, hey, we can quietly push all this money into the system. We'll cut everybody $1,200 check, which was like, a tiny, tiny percentage of the amount of money they injected into the system. And now you've got on separate sides of the globe, you've got this Iran situation, which is primed to explode at any moment. Like, that situation could get really bad because that country is fortified through mountains. So it's going to be pretty insulated to like a ground attack. But, seems like, my favorite podcaster, Tim Dillon, has said recently, Trump just wants to nuke somebody. Like that's the last thing he hasn't done yet is he just wants to nuke somebody just to see how it feels. Then he'll go golfing afterwards. And then you've got this situation with Russia and Ukraine where like, hey, we don't care about Ukraine. It's a shit, as far as we're concerned, they're not players on the global world, in the global economy. They don't really, produce anything of value to the West. So what we'll do is we'll let these countries bankrupt themselves and destroy each other. So companies like BlackRock can come in and do the rebuild and steal all their resources.
well said, young man. And one of the reasons why the deep state, the bankers, and these evil families and gamblers need to steal basically what BlackRock, WF, of course, Palantir's their soldier doing this. And by the way, American politicians, from my detection, Nick, have zero agency right now in what's happening.
Mhm.
I don't see them having any effect on this drift where we just greenlit a Putin decap operation is the most insane thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
had
see
we had one congressman, Thomas Massey, who was like thinking for himself and acting in the interest of the United
that's
States, and they dumped millions of dollars into his campaign to de-seat him.
that is absolutely fact. Here's the analogy of how Well, hold on. Let me pour onto you 100%. They need the money of these resources, Nick, because these psychopathic serial killers, serial thieves, dude, they lost the money they have stolen.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, they spent it on bimbos, yachts,
Yeah, gave it
for
away
living
to
for
foreign
living a
countries, give it to
it's
Africa.
gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Poof.
They're bankrupt.
Yeah.
They need the new wealth to maintain their high.
Yeah. There's this great episode of South Park where one of the kids gets a check for his birthday and the dad's like, "Hey, we're going to bring this into the bank and you're going to start an account." So they give the check to the banker and he goes, "Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a savings account and then we're going to invest over here and we're going to do this and it's gone." He goes, "What do you mean it's gone?" He goes, "It's sorry, it's gone. It's on. It's all gone."
South Park,
Yeah.
man, we need to get their DNA and
Yeah,
spread and give it out
it
like
was great
vitamins.
because it's exactly what these bankers
Yeah,
do. It's
that
like,
is
"Okay, we'll
exact
move it over here. We'll do this with it. We'll do that." And it's gone. Sorry.
and it's gone. That needs to be a bumper sticker, dude.
Yeah.
But here's the I wanna hit you with an analogy, dude. So, here's George Soros, CIA, and their spawn. Dude, what they simply are is, first of all, they equal I don't care all the money they have. I don't they equal a thief of a liquor store.
Mhm.
They're just doing it instead of going for $300, they're going for 300 trillion.
Yeah.
You
And
see
the
how
American people
math works?
don't have any money left to steal from, right?
Think about it.
They gotta go
Think
somewhere else.
think about it and get this. And they're going for it, bro. And let me tell you something, but look, desperate people do what, Nick?
Desperate measures.
Hello?
Yep.
Desperate people do
Yep.
desperate things.
A drowning man is very dangerous because he will take you down with him.
We know this, don't we? This
Mhm.
is almost like math.
An injured
So here's
animal.
the
You know, when
here
you shoot a deer, you go up and you poke it with your rifle because if that deer ain't dead, you're getting an antler through the chest.
thank you, absolutely, and here's the analogy I think everybody can feel. Okay, George Soros and Fink and all these AI bullies and weird people who think they're trying to scare us with the Antichrist when they're doing the Antichrist's
Yeah.
work. I don't want to say anything about Palantir, right? But look, they are like a couple of guys on the most wild ass bender of drugs, alcohol, coffee, unfiltered cigarettes, amphetamines combined with liquid Xanaxes,
Mhm.
veterinarian animal nerve stunners. They've been on it for about a week. They have not slept. They are really, really behind. They've borrowed money, Nick, and guess what? Their dice did not hit. They've been playing craps. They're way behind, bro.
Mhm.
You see the desperate you see them in the desperation. Can you smell it?
Oh, yeah.
They're way behind, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
They
Like you said, you can go on a you can survive on meth and meth alone for about a week. And then the crash comes, right?
Oh,
Like you
bro,
got to have some sustenance, you got to have some food, you got to have some water. Otherwise, the crash just hits you like a ton of bricks and you OD and your heart explodes and you die.
well, here's the thing. That's a good analogy too. Let's spin that into what they're trying to do to cover their real-time tracks because things are so bad. In other words, what is the war? The genocide against Iran, I think, is it 90 days in operation?
I think it's even longer than that now. I mean, depending
Okay,
on like when you like actually
okay.
say the start of the operation was like, did it start when they originally bombed those nuclear sites, or did it start like after,
Okay.
like who really knows?
Well,
But
let's just say
we're like
let's
at
say
a point where oil has been up for at least 90 days, probably longer, probably like 4 or 5 months now, you know.
and not only that, my brother, but every day oil inventories in Thailand, Philippines are I think Philippines has 6 days. I think Australia has, this is public information. I think they have 8 days of fuel.
Something like that.
They so and it takes at least 90 days to deliver
Mhm.
oil. And get this though, here's what's so effed up. What the blob is doing, that's what Mike Benz
Yeah.
calls, the blob is taking out now crude oil processing facilities in Russia and Iran. Those 2 people, Nick, I believe, make up 24% of global energy production.
Mhm. Yeah.
Dude, do
You know
you see how effed up that is?
yeah, you know who's really suffering is Cuba. Because when we took out Venezuela, that's who they got all their oil from. And we go in there, take over all the oil production and say, "Hey, we're not gonna give you this oil anymore." So you've got
Well,
like Russia who and Iran who are saying, "Hey, we're gonna give these Cubans some oil," because it's a power play. They don't really care about the Cubans. And the funny thing is like you have people like Marco Rubio, who his whole axe to grind, like his entire time in politics, has been Israel and Cuba. Like he wants to go in and take over Cuba because these people are suffering from communism. So how do we help these poor people that are suffering from horrible, communist dictators? Let's cut off their oil.
yeah, let's starve them.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of that press release, I think out of in the mid '60s. We had to destroy the village to do what? To save it.
Yeah.
We had to destroy
Yeah. Waco.
it.
Like Waco. Oh, these poor children that are suffering
Exactly.
from these cult members. Let's firebomb the entire building.
So here's the thing, Nick. I think I'm glad to see your mind picking up the signals. I don't think this shit's gonna sell. And here's anybody in the camp of these people politically, I think, is in not only a Waco situation politically for their future brother, they're in Jonestown drinking
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Now, let me
I
tell you
mean,
something about that.
yeah, for
Let
sure.
me
Go
tell you
ahead.
something about that Kool-Aid, bro. If you don't get your ass off that Kool-Aid, your ass gonna end up on Newsweek, bloated, dead, 300-pound horse in Guyana. You're gonna be dead on Newsweek.
Yeah.
Politically, unless these politicians get out from underneath this Hindenburg coming, they're politically the rest of their lives, they'll be hitchhiking on Route 66, picking up cans and bottles, begging with shopkeepers to give them a protein bar.
Yeah. Well, like, look at what
Then,
happened in the Thomas Massie election, right? Like, most of the people that voted against him, the overwhelming majority were boomers because they had this guy who was dangerous to the establishment. So, what did they do? They spent a ton of money on TV and radio ads to terrify the boomers of this guy. Oh, he's pro immigrant. He's pro the he. It was just fear porn that they were feeding to these boomers. What happens when the boomer class dies out completely and you're not able to propagandize this younger generation who is not buying, they're not drinking the Kool-Aid? Like, here's the Kool-Aid is essentially this: your life is great, stop complaining, everything is great, we're the best people to be in charge, we know what's best for you, drink the Kool-Aid. And the younger
yes,
generation is going, my life is fucked. My life is fucked. It
yes,
hasn't even started yet. The average first time home buyer in this country is 41 years old. Kids are
at
living with their
least,
parents until they're in their 40s. They are not
at
drinking that
least.
Kool-Aid. So once this like fear porn propaganda runs out and the boomers and the older Gen X die off completely, like they're fucked. And there's going to be a complete political reset in this country as to like who's running it and what their agenda is, because at some point like they are not going to just continue to be voted in and getting the stamp to do whatever the hell they want.
Well, let's think what they're let's sit at their side of the table a second, Nick. That's why they have reset to
Yeah, they have to
kinetic.
do
They're
it
gonna
now.
use, dude, they've got, well, Palantir's doing their killing. Palantir is the SS of the deep state.
Mm,
They're the best killers the world has ever seen. They make Ted Bundy look like a Boy Scout. They don't need sleep, Nick. They kill 24/7. They kill everything. Well, they have to because their bosses need land for water-viewed condos. Come on,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they need their data centers, you know? They need
come
land for
on.
data centers. They need power plants. They need infrastructure to build this, like, that's the crazy thing is, like, just 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when Biden got into office, like, every major tech corporation had a pro climate change agenda. We have to go to
Right.
Right? We have to go to wind and solar. We can't keep destroying the planet. This is terrible. And then what happened? ChatGPT came out. And all of these big companies went, "Oh, wow, they used a lot of energy to build this thing. They need a lot of energy to train the models. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna get back on the energy and infrastructure train again." And now
Oh,
all of these big
yes.
companies have, like, thrown their
Yeah.
climate change garbage out the window, and now are all about building power plants and data centers.
Dude, you're teaching me tonight, dude. This is as ludicrous as remember when the Soviet Union would have these 5-year plans
Yeah.
and they would just shift them at any time, right?
Mhm. And then the previous plan never existed, right?
No,
We're
no,
always
yeah,
at war with Eurasia.
exactly. Exactly. Wow. Wow. But here's the thing, Nick, they know they know that logically they've jumped the goat. What they're doing now is it's beyond evil. Dude, there's the blob is so evil now with Palantir. The devil took a vacation. He's using his timeshare in the Bahamas before his time before Judgment Day. Evil's happening so good now, he doesn't have to work.
Yeah. So what's going
He's
on
got
with Palantir? What have they been up to lately?
dude, Palantir has actually what's the term used when AI does no longer needs a human? Is it
Um,
session or you know
like
what I'm talking about?
Uh, I guess, I mean, I don't know if there's an exact term for that, but, like, there's
Okay,
a
look,
couple different terms for AI. You've got artificial general intelligence, which is, art an AI that's as smart as a person. Then you've got super intelligence that is as smart as every person, and then you've got the singularity where, like, you can no
okay,
longer
okay, there you go,
control
there you
it.
go, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Let me give you a strategic view of how incredibly powerful and effective Palantir has become. It has greatly exceeded every wet dream when the CIA and and I believe it's InQtel, they're the venture arm of the deep state, gave Palantir the seed money, I believe in the early 2000s to form. Palantir has exceeded. Oh, they're proud of this child. Let me tell you what Palantir's doing today, Nick, at high level. Palantir is the world's greatest annihilator and mechanized death for Lebensraum ever constructed. 30x above Himmler, makes Hitler look like a youth pastor on the straight and narrow in terms of capacity, strength, and efficiency. They're doing this, what they have just done in Ukraine. Now, talking about it, let me talk from an academic level. Palantir just did one of the greatest comebacks in military history in that Russia had thoroughly defeated Ukraine militarily. This is going back 6 weeks. However, Palantir and its evil genius systems has created a kinetic flywheel where they're taking venture capital money into an organization known as Brave One in Ukraine. They're using Ukraine as the storefront. They're using venture capital money they're using Ukraine, dude, as a field laboratory for war machinery.
Oh shit.
So they're making money on the way in. They've got Russia now not only on its heels, but what they also did, which is absolutely, they have conducted and ignited, and you can verify this with even lame ass Reuters data. 5 weeks ago, Nick, they greenlit an effing decap op against Putin.
I didn't hear
Now,
about that.
remember, Putin is a big ass nuclear power.
Yeah.
I think what do they got? Like 3,000 warheads?
They got more than we do.
So the only reason you and I are talking right now is because Vladimir Putin he's a damn
Yeah.
good chess player,
He's got some
and
restraint.
if he has a bad night or too much stolly, man, we could be under our desk looking for the harm to pass. But anyway, so Palantir, Nick, also was the beautiful software that enabled Lavender to wipe out Gaza, to put Gaza. You know what they did in Gaza, Nick? They blew it up so good.
Yeah.
They left the foundations for the most part. So when they build their beautiful, who is it? Kushner putting in them
Yeah.
waterfront condos. When they go to build their waterfront condos for their team, they won't even have to spend money on concrete.
No.
But there's hardly any sign of life left over there.
Oh, it's it's
That's
it's
how,
demolished. It's the worst thing
dude,
happening in the world.
Palantir, the most brilliant killing operation ever conceived in human history. When I was a young man, when I was 18, Nick, we had a serial killer running in the United States. His name was Ted Bundy. His
Yeah.
wild ass got loose one time. He went from Denver on a bender, killed about, I think, 10 girls at colleges. He was a wild killer, but we ended up finding him, judging him, and executing him. Switch to 2026, Nick. Guess what we do with serial killers? We give them leadership in
Yeah.
tech bro operations. We give them bimbos, however they like them, whatever breasts they want or appearance, if they're the other kind. We give them yachts. We give them liquor. We give them probably black American Express cards. And we make them heroes on Fords. And get this, here's what's insulting, Nick, and this kind of gets me riled up. They go on LinkedIn or TEDx and everybody kisses their ass.
Yeah.
How
And
do you feel about that,
and
young
like
man?
Peter Thiel billed himself as a libertarian.
Exactly.
Like what the fuck? Like how do you go from like I'm some libertarian tech entrepreneur to like I'm gonna wipe out an entire class of people?
Well, he's also doing it under a guise of evangelical Christianity, which is
Yeah.
very whack ass weird.
And you know what else too? Like he went from like this, they've all have kind of done this recently. He went from like this nerdy looking tech guy to looking like he's a CIA operative. Like his physical appearance, like he gained a bunch of weight. He put on probably testosterone replacement therapy. He wears the weird suits. Like he looks like he's in the CIA. He just has that look of an operative now. Red face with a red face is weird. Like they've all kind of done it now. I don't know. Like he doesn't have to be a CIA operative. Like he's a government fucking you know, contractor already. Like it's not like he's having secret meetings with the CIA that but like he's having open meetings with the CIA that everybody knows about. So it's not like but he just he looks like a psycho.
Well, that's an interesting point. He does look troubled. You cannot hide that between his pupils, eyelids, mouth,
Yeah.
forehead. The dude looks troubled and alarmed.
Yeah. It's like
Here's
he's on
what's interesting.
steroids and a bunch of fucking like psychoactive drugs, you know?
Possibly, yeah, indeed. Now, here's what I think interesting. I'm 66 years of age. One of the things that I found interesting about studying, and I consider myself a full time student. Every day I'm alive, I'm learning. I'm in class. Every day I consider Earth classroom. Nick, here's what I think. I think any human alive, I think they're primarily operating off of their primary formative childhood experience as their iOS, and it's going to drive them until the day they drop or get called to glory. I think this is what drives George Soros. If you look at one of his first jobs, apparently
Yeah,
it
I know
was
about this.
to aid in hunting down physically Jews who had on their bodies currency,
Yeah,
gold, gold teeth,
and he loved
pearl
it. He said in
jewels.
interviews that it was like the best time of his life.
Now, I think the reason being, I think as a earlier youth, I think he came from poverty. So if you combine those elements, Nick, you have a very dangerous appetite for acquisition. So look at Soros. He had about $3 million in 1977 with the Quantum Fund. He hooks up with USA Intel Community, starts working in concert, trading currencies based on coups, political developments. Well, you can do a lot of damage if you're trading currencies or such instruments if you know what's going to happen politically, can't you, Nick?
Hmm.
So that's why he's worth, I think,
Billions of
20.
dollars. Yeah.
I don't know how he's worth his ridiculous amount of wealth today. Now, if you also notice, the interesting thing about Soros is he he also is very lush with his contributions. He gave, for example, to the Orange County, Florida, where I live here in Orlando. This is public information, hard math. Soros Foundation's part of Open Society gave to the Orange County School Board political universe for their agenda of transhumanism, including strange variations on human sexuality,
Yeah.
trying to get mamas and bad daddies
Yeah.
to buy
The
pink dress.
transgender agenda is a
Well,
transhumanist agenda.
dude, they're trying to get their 4-year-old boys to buy pink dresses. But guess what, Nick? That curriculum was carried into the school system by political operatives and candidates who were supported by George Soros to the tune of, let me get this exact because we're talking public here, to the tune of, I believe, $29 million dollars over a period of 10 years.
And that's in one county in one state.
Dude, so look at the strategic George Soros is operating NATO armies against Eurasia, but he's also so poured out that he's involved in Orlando, Florida, trying to affect my neighbor's life of his pre-K. Dude, we're talking three
Yeah.
to 5 years old.
Yeah.
They're perturbing minds at 4 years old, dude.
It's the destruction of civil society. That's like it's wild that what's he call his foundation? The
So isn't it open?
open society, but it's not open
Yeah.
society. It's destroyed society. You know what I mean? Like his
Yes,
whole
yes.
goal
Oh,
is like to destabilize the West for some fucking reason. Like I don't know what his deal is because like it, if you just want to steal from people, like you don't have to destroy the fabric of society to do that. Like we have tons of
well,
people who are kleptocrats that don't like destroy society in the name of like stealing from the average person. It
but
it doesn't
Nick,
make a
but
lot of
Nick,
sense to me.
but Nick, how much is enough, bro?
Never. There isn't.
You
For
see,
those
you
people,
see,
there's never enough. It's always more.
haven't you played Monopoly with people like
Mhm.
this that are so whacked out? They'll cheat to beat you at Monopoly
Yeah.
for no money.
And then you've got the government where like if we're using the monopoly analogy. Like you're playing Monopoly, you get to the end of the game where everybody owns everything, and then all of a sudden the government opens up another box and takes all the money and says, "Okay, the banker has
Hey,
all the money." You know what I mean? Like
Nick, what'd the banker say in South Park?
I don't know.
Remember, what'd the banker say when the boy deposited the check?
I don't know.
Well, he said he was investing it and
Oh, in South Park. I didn't hear what you said. Yeah.
what'd
And
he
it's gone. And it's gone.
say? So Nick, let me wind up on Palantir over
Sure, sure.
strategic. So really, I have to give credit where credit is due in Dr. Karp operating Palantir. He's doing it also with a philosophical arts and humanities background. He will go down in history as one of the best CEO type operators for creating such a malevolent and evil killing force in human history. Now, now, that's what they're doing strategically on the military level. So thus what they're doing, everyone who's associated with Palantir is going to make a physical fortune. They're going to be a unicorn and then some as a stock. Now, what they're doing with their product modules is so Gotham, the lavender variant, which they infused IDF with through Epstein and Thiel. We know this from travel logs. This is where lavender came up to wipe out Gaza, and now they got lavender, I believe, going against poor Persians and
Hmm.
even Christian Lebanese
Yeah.
people. I mean, this is well, anyway. That's what they're doing. We know this is fact.
Yeah. You've
Now
got
they've
evangelical
got other
Christians
modules,
supporting
Nick.
a wipeout of Lebanese Christians. It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, we need to share that with our brothers here, right? So in addition to Gotham, they have other modules for they're gonna okay, they need a reset to we're in it. We're in it early, just moments into the game. It's like a soccer game, it's a long game. Now, reset two is going to give them opportunities for shock events to bring in the control Palantir modules and their digital currencies and their carbon ID,
Hmm.
which are going to tame your ass to not want to go out in anything that's going to burn. Somehow they've made carbon a dirty word.
Hmm.
Carbon actually enhances plant
Hmm.
ecosystems.
Yeah.
This
I
is
grew up in
science.
I grew up in Northern California where they grew all the marijuana back in the early 2000s. If you take a bottle of CO2 or a bunch of dry ice and put it into a marijuana grow room, the plants just explode and get bigger. Imagine that.
Thank you, Nick, for fortifying the
Yeah.
point.
They call it the greenhouse effect. I call it the grow room effect.
Oh, I'm sure you're telling me these things, just as analogies and
Yeah. You know what's
concepts.
crazy too is like when I was in college, I went to college after I got hurt. It was like a form of retraining. I never would have like paid to go to college. I got paid to go to college. And like I was a business major and like probably 40%, maybe even 50% of the things I learned while I was in college were all centered around climate change.
No shit.
It was like, dude, there was three things I would say that you had to learn in college. You had to learn that you had to learn how to do a works cited. You had to learn how to use Microsoft Word, and that's the only operating system you're allowed to use in college is Microsoft. You can't use an Apple device. Like I'm an amputee, they would bend over backwards trying to say, "Oh, if you have a disability, we'll help you however we can." It's like I want to use an Apple device. No, you can't do that. So that was the second thing is you had to learn how to use Microsoft and you had to buy a Microsoft computer. And the third thing is climate change is going to kill everybody. Like I took this class that was centered around electricity generation and like I worked on power lines. Like that's what I did for a living, you know. I'm not stupid. Like we learned a lot about energy generation in the school that I went to for working on power lines. And like I knew far more about energy generation than the teacher like teaching that class. And anytime I would bring up something that he was wrong about, it would just be like, "No, you're wrong." And be like, "Well, no, like here's the evidence. Like this is actually how it works. Like what you're saying makes no sense whatsoever. No, you're wrong."
You know what?
I had a teacher. I at one point like it was an online class and I had this like this guy pissed me off. Like the question for the forum was like, what questions did you have going into college and what questions do you have now that you're leaving college? You know, big questions. And this guy like wrote like, well, my big question was is Christianity a cult? And I still believe it was a cult. And I'm like, dude, that's like it just annoyed me because it was like I'm not even a Christian, but it annoyed me because like that's the most ridiculous like stoner thing that you talk about with your buddies when you're 16 years old type of thing. It was a stupid like low IQ take on the world, you know? And
Why are you
I
so harsh tonight?
and it pissed
You're
me off.
offending people.
So like I went on this forum and I was like, dude, if you want to talk about cults, climate change is the biggest fucking cult in the world. It's an
Say this to write it.
it's an anti-industrialization cult, like where they want to fucking, you know, throw people into cages essentially. And
Dude, did you say this?
the teacher came onto the forum and was like, I almost never uh you know, contribute to these forums because it's for you to discuss, not for me to interject. But I feel that after reading this, I need to interject and just say that climate change is not a cult and it's the biggest problem that humans are facing and blah, 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 blah. And she like tried to force me to apologize to the class. And I was like, no, I'm not apologizing to the class. You're fucking crazy.
Now, hold on a minute. This is epic. Now, was this a Zoom call? What was it?
No, it was just like an online typed forum. Like you would go in and you would write your responses, and like she interjected with her own written fucking
Oh,
page about how I was evil for saying climate
now
change is a cult. It was
hold on.
crazy.
When you wrote these dangerous,
Yeah.
insensitive words, did people see them
Yeah.
or?
I mean, not
Oh shit!
not everybody saw it, but everybody had the ability to see it.
Oh shit! So it was kind of like you said them
It
almost.
was yeah, if I was in a classroom, if it was a classroom setting, this guy would have said what he thought about Christianity, and I would have replied to him that you're an idiot and the biggest cult in America is climate change. You
Well,
know?
Nick, you can't, dude.
No.
That is the equivalent. You're like the dude. Remember that picture of the dude at the Hitler rally not saluting?
Yeah,
Dude, that's Nick.
exactly. Exactly. That was
Where's your
early
right
on.
hand?
That was
Get
yeah,
your damn
exactly.
right get your right hand up.
Yeah. Dude, that was
Damn it.
like early on in my college experience where
How
I
old
didn't
were
like
you?
dude, this was only like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was a
You
joke, dude.
actually had
College is fucking it's a joke. Like I went in thinking like, "Oh, this is going to be hard. Like it's going to take like I don't know if I'm capable of doing this." Dude, I cheated the entire time. My whole goal was like these people are idiots. They have nothing to teach me that's worth my time. If I end up going back to work, I'm going to bartend. I'm not going to use some stupid associate's degree that's not going to like pay me as much as bartending. So like I'm going to put as little time and effort into this as I possibly can and I'm going to cheat as much as I possibly can. So that's what I did. And like dude, the people that I went to college with were fucking retarded. And when I say
really?
retarded, I don't mean like mentally handicapped. I mean they were their IQs were retarded to like 80 at the most. And what I realized while I was there was like the whole like goal for college is not to teach people anything. It's to get the money from the loans, you know? And so you've got this entire student loan scam where if you get out of high school, you can't get a loan for a car, you can't get a loan for a house, but they'll give you thousands and thousands of dollars to go to college. And what happens if you like people like some of the papers that I had to like read over and edit for people in college were they were written at like a 6th grade level. I'm not even kidding. Like just awful. I have some of them saved and I've read one of them on the podcast multiple times because it was so bad. I titled the file that I saved it under the worst essay ever. Like these people were retarded. And I was like the whole school, I could have like I when I went to line school, it was 3 months. You learned so much in 3 months. Like it was
Right,
fast. You learned a lot every day and if you couldn't keep
right.
up, it was on you. Here, they move at the pace of the slowest kid, and the slowest kid is a fucking retard. So, like, everything took forever. You had all this time to do things that took you 20 minutes if you had a brain in your head. And so, like, what I realized was the reason they do that is because if they failed these kids who were clearly retarded, then they wouldn't get more retards signing up for college, and that would significantly cut down the amount of loan money that they would get every year. So they have to make college very easy. They're not going to teach you anything. It's going to move really slow. They're going to treat you like children, because if it was actually a school for adults who were like looking to like learn something and apply it to their life later, you wouldn't have nearly as many people there and the loan companies would suffer.
Interesting takes, Nick. I think yeah, interesting takes. Obviously, I think what modern education from the blob viewpoint is well, they
And like the
want
entire
people.
education system was set up to make good factory workers. And then when
Exactly.
factories went out of style, it shifted to making good office workers. And now office workers are going out of style because of AI. So what's it going to shift to next?
Thank you. Well put. Well put. Oh, remember the line, "Go learn coding."
Yeah, learn to code.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.
What's it remember the banker in South
So
Park?
like what are
It's
they going to
gone.
do when they don't have any jobs to push these people into?
It's
You know,
gone.
the school that I went to, it was a community college in my area. It's in the same parking lot as Walmart. So like I was a business major, and my thought was like, "Oh, they're going to teach you how to run a business." No, 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 no. They're not teaching you how to run a business. They don't want to help you start a business. They want you to be a manager at Walmart. So they're literally training the next generation of Walmart managers in the same parking lot as Walmart so you can move from the college to the Walmart.
Well, here's where I'm glad you spoke to this because I've had on my heart, and I've been pouring into my Substack, which, and I'll give it to you for listing, but it's Rocky Hag
Yeah, yeah. Your Substack's
dot
good. People should
dot
subscribe.
dot substack.com.
Yeah.
Nick, real education should excite the human mind. If someone is really passionate, this is why I'm still very, very excited about, even today, especially, I'm excited about arts and humanities
Mhm.
and what that has to give to the
Yeah.
world.
And you can
Very
learn
excited.
way more from listening to podcasts and reading books
Yes,
and listening to books if you're not a good reader than you can ever
yes,
learn in college. Like, dude, I took 2 economics classes in college. One of them, they had us listening to NPR podcast with socialists about economics.
yes.
Like, you're not gonna learn anything useful about economics on that. You can read Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt on Austrian economics, and you're good. You know more about economics at that point. It's a 250, 300-page book. You read that book, which is a very easy read. You can listen to it on Amazon. You can probably listen to it for free on YouTube, I would imagine. You read that book, you know more about economics than 95% of the population,
Well,
including the government.
it's funny, you bring up a good point, Nick. There's a line in the scriptures that says, "Iron sharpens iron." This is almost a scientific
Yeah.
principle. YouTube, that type of information dissemination has raised the bar. This is one of the good things
Yeah.
about the internet.
Why would you
Dude,
spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college and learn from a professor that has never ran a business, who's never had a real job? They went straight from college and stayed in college when you could go on YouTube and listen to actual business owners that have ran $1 million businesses. Like the All In podcast is a podcast with like
yeah,
these
yeah,
very successful people that
yeah,
can tell you how to run a business. Patrick Beck David, a very successful businessman who can tell you how to like get a great job and how to be a good businessman. Like there's probably tons of podcasts about business that I've never even heard of. Financial audit. That's one I've been watching a lot of clips of. This guy, Caleb Hammer, who's like a financial guy. He brings poor people onto his podcast and they show him their financial situation and he tells them how to change it. And he's very funny and he rips on them a lot. But like there are so many resources just on YouTube and podcasts alone for people to like learn how to be a successful adult that you will never learn in college.
dude, you're cracking me up. You're on a roll tonight, but
Yeah.
you just cracked me up, dude. Remember where that dude is who fixes shit accounting wise. We're gonna need him to put our country back together. Here's where I want to encourage you, Nick. Okay, look, we're gonna create a village, Nick. We're gonna create a kingdom. Empire is grasping to steal everything.
Mhm.
Capitalism 1.0 was extractive, evil, slaveholder mind. I'm glad capitalism 1.0 goes away. It sucks. It's trying to give you little money for your time. Kingdom economy, capitalism 2.0, Nick, is the opposite. Every day you wake up, Nick, you're thinking, how can I make my podcast better than when I had
Yeah.
Samurai Rocky Boy? You're thinking of how am I going to be a better neighbor? How am I going to pour into the people in my life, my cousin's life, my nephews, my nieces? How can I level up my
Yeah.
game?
How can I add
Every,
value to people's
think
lives?
about it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. You're
And that's
giving.
like one of the fundamental principles of like economics is how do you
Yes.
add value? That's what I tell people so like everybody wants to be a bartender at some point. Not everybody, but a lot of people want to be a bartender, right? Like I bartended for a very long time, like
How
10
many
years on and off. Yeah, I loved bartending.
really?
It's a great job. I loved it.
What
And
time
like
what time period? What time period?
from about 2006 to about 15, 16, something like that.
Oh,
I
shit.
bartended in Southern California, Maui, and then San Francisco. So three different,
Dude,
areas. And like, dude,
dude,
I always tell people like when you go to a restaurant, there's a million I would receive like the bar I work at in San Francisco, I was the front bar, so people would walk in and they'd hand me their resume. I could look at their I didn't even most of the time I didn't look at their resume. I could talk to them for 2 minutes and know if they were a good fit or not, and I'd either put the resume in the stack or I'd throw it in the garbage can. And like the main thing that these people didn't understand was like you're a dime a dozen. In San Francisco, there's thousands of bartenders across that city and everybody wants a job, everybody wants a better job that has a job. Like it's a constant, mixing and to going different places. Your main goal when you go into an interview as a bartender and for any job for that matter is how can I add value to your company? That is what the boss wants to know. Am I just going to be a cog that fits into this spot and does the same thing that every other bartender does? Or do I have something different that can bring value to your company? How can I make you money?
Nick, you're taking me to the Samurai Rocky Boy to school tonight. Dude, I didn't even know bartenders had resumes. I figured
Yeah.
they try to be good conversationalists.
And they all lie on their resume. Like that's a thing. Like that's a given. Like they all lie
Oh,
and say that they
so
bartended at different places and
hold on.
it's
Let
easy to lie on a resume, but like it's not easy to lie to a person's face that knows what they're doing. When I got my last bartending job, like when I got my last bartending job, my boss in San Francisco, he was the best. Like he's the best GM I ever worked for. He had zero restaurant experience when him and his buddy opened the restaurant and he became the GM.
Really?
None at all. He'd worked there for like 2 or 3 years. Like the place had only been open a couple years when I started there. He didn't even look at my resume. He talked to me for 5 minutes and goes, "This guy knows how to bartend. This guy is going to be good for my business. He fits
Exactly,
here.
exactly.
You're
Yeah.
hired. I'm going to give you a chance." And I would always tell people like, "Hey, you go into a bar and you've got experience, like you can learn any bar system. The main hang up now at least is the computer system. Everybody has a different computer system. So like but if you know how to make drinks, say, "Hey, give me a shot, train me for 1 day and I'll show you that I can do the job." And like you go in and you have that mindset, how can I add value? How can I be better than the person that you just are replacing me with, you know?
Nick, now let me get this straight. So two questions I have for you. Let's stay on this bar thing because I'm fascinated by bartenders because they have to deal
Mhm.
the human animal
Yep.
full spectrum, soup to nuts. And now, were you like the head bartender? Is this why you were getting resumes? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I worked the main shifts. Like we didn't really have a head bartender. we kind of like we had a bar manager at one point, but he was an idiot and we got rid of him and then there just wasn't one. But I would say I was the top bartender
Really?
in the place. I got the best shifts because I was the best bartender in the restaurant. So like I was always at the front bar on Saturday. I was the first person you would see when you came in, you know.
So the
And this was a
resumes
big bar.
flow
We
to
did
you?
millions of dollars a year in revenue. We would do, you know,
I
30,
bet.
40, $50,000 a Saturday.
Now, dude, I do not doubt you know the resumes would flow to you?
Oh yeah, all the time. Every weekend almost I get a resume.
What would a good bartender put on a damn resume? This makes you
Doesn't
curious.
matter. That's the point. Like you put where you've worked. That's really all it is like
Yeah.
I want to know that you have done the job before, but really it doesn't matter what you put on the resume. I need to know from talking to you for 2 minutes if you've got what it takes. If you come in with confidence because I know you're lying on your resume because everybody lies on their resume. So that's not like I'm not upset that you're lying on your resume. I want to know if you're lying because you don't know how to do the job or if you're lying because you lost your last job. Like, I want to know why you're lying. And cause like I lied on my resumes, you know, like I did,
Oh,
like there was
man,
gaps
dude.
in my resume and, you
Oh,
know, I
no.
filled them with shit. Like it's easy to find a restaurant that's out of business that go, yeah, I bartended at this restaurant. It's out of business. You can't call anybody. But like, if you come in with confidence and I know that like, you know, you can do the job instantly, your resume's going in the pile for somebody above me to read.
Nick, you are so on. I don't know if you slept at a Holiday Inn Express. I have never seen you so on.
Yeah.
Now you're getting so smart, you're actually contemplating, okay, I know you lied. Why'd you lie? Were you good at the lie?
Mhm.
Now you're getting into the philosophy and the ontology of human mapping. This is
Mhm.
wild shit. But here's the second question. And this is where I'd like to see you write a little book, soup to nuts on your bartending
Yeah.
years.
I've thought about
Dude,
it.
I want to see a chapter. Did you serve as bartender between the years 2005 to 2009? The crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you saw shit then.
Okay, so when I moved to San Francisco, this is interesting. I moved to San Francisco right after Occupy Wall Street started. And at that
Oh,
point, like I didn't know anything. I knew I couldn't find a job in Northern California because jobs were shit. I knew gas was expensive, but I had no idea why. You know,
well, how'd you do it?
I I was a drug addict at the time. I did tree work in between bartending jobs for a while,
Right.
and finally I like got clean off of drugs and moved to San Francisco where there was some jobs, you know. And
Okay.
I remember like at Embarcadero BART station in San Francisco at that time period, there was an Occupy area where these people had like cordoned off an entire street corner where all these homeless people had tents and campfires set up and they were occupying that area as an Occupy Wall Street. But like at the time, I didn't know what Occupy was. All I knew was these people weren't standing for anything. They're just here taking advantage of a situation and camping on the streets because they can. And after
Really?
like I kind of learned about these things afterwards, I realized that the reason that they were allowed to do that in front of a big bank was because the banks wanted to make these people look bad. They didn't want you to look into what Occupy was actually about. They wanted you to do exactly what I did and go, these people are losers and get out of my way. You're being annoying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But dude, how did you become a bartender? This I'm
So
curious.
I was a dirt bike racer when I grew up. And like growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I never had a
Right.
job in mind. Like I wasn't one of those kids that just like knew what they wanted to do with their life. I had no idea. And like all I really ever cared about was like riding dirt bikes. And while I was younger, I went to this place in Southern California that was kind of like the mecca of dirt bike racing. And I like visited there and I had a buddy who had moved there that I was friends with. He had moved there years before and he was kind of living in that area. So like I went down there and visited. My dad went with me once, a buddy went with me once. You know, I had a lot of freedom as a kid. my parents let me drive to Southern California in my dad's pickup when I was 16 with a buddy of mine and just stay down there for a week. So like I
Is that
had
legal?
probably not. Probably not. I don't know, but they let me do it. Like I had a lot of
Oh
freedom as a
my
kid.
gosh.
I was treated like as an adult, like very very young. You know, I was well trusted by my family, and so
Oh,
like
go
I
on.
just decided I'm gonna move there. You know,
Okay.
and when I decided to move there, I had my aunt's husband was a contractor and he built restaurants. And so they
Oh,
were like, "Hey, you know," I at the time, like in high school, I worked at an auto shop. I did, you know, I washed cars, did tires every once in a while, drove people home, like just kind of did busy work around the shop type of thing. And so my initial idea was like, I'm going to go work at a dealership and be a service writer because I had a little bit of like experience using the computers. We had like service department at the auto shop in my high school and I ran the service department there. So like I was pretty good at that. So that was like my initial idea. And they're like, no, no, no. You don't want to do that. Like my aunt and uncle, they're like, you need to go work at a restaurant because you can work at night and then ride dirt bikes during the day. And I ended up becoming a pretty good dirt bike racer when I moved down south. And I tried to go professional for a couple years and didn't make it. Um, but I ended up like I got an interview at this restaurant that my uncle built that was in the town that I grew up in. He got me an interview there. And he basically told these people hire him as a waiter. And so I go in and I do it's an Italian restaurant and I'd never even eaten at an Italian restaurant before. I grew up in a small town in Northern California. We didn't have Italian food. And so like I didn't know anything about Italian food. I'd never like worked in a restaurant. And they're like, "Okay, we're going to start you off as a busboy." And I was like, "No, you're not." Like he told you to hire me as a waiter. You're going to hire me as a waiter. And I struggled pretty hard for the first few months. Like I couldn't tell what each plate was. I had no idea.
right.
Like I didn't know the difference between pastas. Like so I struggled pretty hard. But then after like 6 months, I got really good at it. You know, I was good at the job and I was one of the best waiters that they had. And I told the manager there like, "Hey, look, when I turn 21, I'm 18 at the time. When I turn 21, I want you to make me a bartender." And he kind of promised me that they would do that. And so, like a couple weeks before my 21st birthday, I said, "Hey, look, I'm turning 21 in a couple weeks. You guys need to start getting ready to train me." And they're like, "Oh, well, we don't really have a position for you and, you know, this type of thing. We'll get you in there when we have an opening." And I was like, "No, no, no. You guys gave me your word that you were going to do this and you're going to do it or I'm going to leave." You know? And I'm one of the best, you know, waiters you've got in this place. Like if you lose me, it's going to be a big blow to the business. So like you're going to figure it out or I'm going to go find somewhere else that's going to keep their word. And so they made spot for me and trained me as a bartender
Now, why did you wanna be a bartender?
because I knew that bartenders could work anywhere. That was the main
Okay,
thing. Like A, it's a
that's good.
skill. It's a good skill to have because
Yeah,
you know, good times, bad times, people drink, right? Like I didn't know a
you
lot about economics, but I knew that like no matter what, good times, bad times, people are still going to drink, you know? And I also knew like from working in that restaurant that bartenders made more money because it was a higher
Oh,
valued skill than being a waiter. And, you know, for me, it was like, look, if I get this skill, I can apply it anywhere. You know, I can decide to move anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. I'd been on a cruise ship when I was younger. We went on a cruise to Alaska and there was bartenders from all over the world working on the cruise ship. I could do that if I decided I wanted to do that for a
right,
couple years.
right,
Like it gave
right.
me options, you know. Uh,
Oh,
Being
okay.
a waiter gave you options, being a bartender gave you more options, right? And it was funny like as I started learning more about economics and as I got the job in San Francisco and I didn't learn from like books. I just learned from like working in bars, you know, working in restaurants. I kind of learned how economics works. And so when I was working in San Francisco, there was a point where like San Francisco was crazy, man. Like their minimum wage when I started working at the bar was like $12 an hour or something like something insane like that, $10 an hour. And so like there was a point where they were going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And all these self-proclaimed socialists waitresses that worked at the, you know, at the restaurant who didn't know anything about economics were all excited that their minimum wage was going up $3 or whatever it was, you know? And I remember telling them like, "Hey, look, like this is not going to work out good for us. What are you thinking?" Like, "Oh, we're going to make more money." And it's like, dude, We work for tips. Our hourly is bullshit. Like, I've gotten negative paychecks before working at the bar because, like, I made so much in tips that, like, the hourly just didn't even matter, and I was like, "All that's really
Negative
gonna happen
paycheck.
is they're gonna cut our hours. We're gonna lose overtime. We're not gonna be able to work overtime anymore. Instead of having a busboy on during the week, on a Tuesday afternoon, they're just not gonna have a busboy, and you're gonna have to bus your own tables. They're gonna get rid of the dishwasher early, so you're gonna have to wash all your own dishes. Like, this is not gonna work out well for us. Oh, well, that's not how it's gonna that's not how things work. And it's like, okay. And that's exactly how it worked. Exactly how it worked.
Oh,
You
shit.
know?
Nick, you're so on tonight, man. Damn. I feel like, well, I've got a different title I share for the to name the episode,
Yeah.
but dude, what I'm detect one of the interesting things I see coming together in my mind is you said you're around 40.
Yeah.
Okay, from 40 then to 25, one of the common variables, and I've seen it transmitted from you, from your experience, and then I'm taking what I recently learned from my family, the young people in my family. And one of the things I see is hell or high water, they're going to live life authentically. They're going to be honest with themselves and others, and they're going to keep other people accountable for their word.
Mhm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
This 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 authenticity vibration frequency in a
Which is why people
technological.
like podcasts better than the corporate news. Got some corporate news guy in his fucking tie that's reading off a teleprompter, or you got a podcast where people are being real.
Dude, one more question about your
Yeah,
bartending.
yeah.
So, dude, what did you see? You saw the highs
Mhm.
of real estate, then you saw the crash and the aftermath.
Yeah.
Man, how did you deal? And you must have been serving same drinks
Yeah.
to the same people on that roller coaster, and you saw them going through the
Yeah.
highs, the lows,
Yeah. And, like,
huh?
one of the thing like, I didn't learn a ton about, like, the way the world works on a macro level by bartending. Like, I didn't learn too much about, like, why we were going through these business cycles or, like, what was happening with the economy. I just knew there was ebbs and flows for one reason or another. One of the things I really did learn by working in bars was that, like, and this is gonna piss some people off, but I don't care. People take sports way too seriously,
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
way too seriously. And,
Oh yeah,
like,
dude.
I remember one day I was in the bar, and there was always like, I always worked in, like, the Italian restaurant had sports on in the bar. But, like, the other 2 bars that I worked in were sports bars. So, like, you had the game on the weekends, and then you had Sports Center on during the week. And I remember one day I was, like,
Yes,
watching Sports Center, and I was like, "What's the fucking point of this show?" Like, I watched the
dude.
game, I know what happened, like, why do I need to know like, why do these people need to be on air all day, every day talking about this
Sure.
shit? And then I
It,
realized, like, I don't know why it just came to me, I was like, "Oh, this isn't about entertainment, this is about gambling.
ooh, you.
This is about gambling. This is for
Mm,
gamblers so they can go on during the week and get as much
mm,
information as they can about who's playing who next weekend and place their bets accordingly."
mm.
And to be honest, like, I took sports way too seriously at that time too. Like, I was living in San Francisco. The Giants won 2 World Series while I was living there. It was really cool. Like, I went to a lot of baseball games. I really enjoyed going to the baseball games. It was great. There was riots after they won the World Series, which was crazy. And,
Was this
like,
Seattle?
no, San Francisco.
Oh yes. Oh, I love the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to live
So
out in
and
LA.
then, like, the 49ers were good at the time, but, like, really what happened for me is when everything changed is when I got hurt. So, like, I got hurt and I got divorced, like, a year or so after I got hurt, and I'm basically, like, sitting in my house by myself with my dog with nothing to do all day every day because, like, I'm on workers' comp, I'm doing all these medical procedures and all this different shit. And like finally, one of two things happened. One, football got too expensive to watch. I wasn't making bartending money anymore. I was making six figures in San Francisco. I was doing really well. And then when I took the line working job, I took a low paying job in North Dakota. So when I got hurt, I got the low paying wage. So I'm getting these workers' comps check for this low paying wage that I'm not used to making. So now all of a sudden, if I want to watch all the football games, I have to pay whatever $100, a month to like watch this ridiculous NFL Sunday ticket. So I stopped watching football, and then I stopped watching baseball, and then I stopped watching basketball. And pretty soon I ran out of TV and movies to watch. I watched everything. I'm sitting in here all day, every day watching TV. And at some point, like I watched this documentary by a guy named Michael Rupert. And Michael Rupert was a cop in South Central Los Angeles. And he kind of like broke the story on the CIA selling crack in Los Angeles. And like,
Really?
yeah, there was this big story where like he was at the city council meeting and he stood up and he was like, I have proof that the CIA is selling crack in these neighborhoods. And like the black community is
No
just like
way.
yelling and screaming and clapping and like they dismissed him. And he made this documentary called Collapse. And the documentary
Dude,
was
dude,
good. He was wrong on a lot of the things in the documentary. Like he was a big peak oil guy. You remember peak oil, where it was like we're gonna run out of oil in the next like we've hit peak
yeah,
oil, and we're so
yeah.
he was a big into peak oil, which never happened. But his economic takes were right. And so he did this documentary called Collapse, and I watched it and I was like, wow, that was interesting. Like this guy's interesting. And so I looked him up on the internet, and I had never really used YouTube before. Like I knew it was around, but I just never really used it. And I like Googling this guy, and I found a 3 hour interview with him and the guy from Fear Factor, Joe Rogan. And it was on the Joe
Uh-oh.
Rogan Experience. So I watched that podcast and it went deep, and I was like, wow, this is fucking interesting. So then I started looking more at the podcast, and I listened to this one and I listened to that one. And pretty soon I'm listening to these podcasts all day, every day. And it like took me out of that everyday grind that I had been in, where it's just sports and not really caring about what's going on in the world around me. And now all of a sudden I'm learning about business and economics and politics, and it just like changed who I was on a fundamental level. And like a lot of it really resonated with me. I found these libertarian and anarchist thinkers who were saying the things that I believed my entire life that I didn't know. I always thought myself as a Republican because I grew up in, a very like blue collar area. My family, my grandfather was a Republican. I asked my grandfather one time when I was a kid, why are we Republicans and not Democrats? And he was like, oh, the Democrats want to take your guns. They want to do this, they want to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. But then also, like, I smoked weed when I was younger. So, like, the Republicans want to throw me in jail for weed. But it was like, okay, I guess that's just how it is type of thing. And pretty soon, like, I realized, like, oh, I'm neither one of these things. And later on, I realized my grandfather never told me why I was a Republican. He told me why I wasn't a Democrat, you know? Like that, and that was a big realization. Like, I'm not a
Oh, that's
Republican.
so
These people
good.
are I don't
That's
I
so
don't have
good.
like, why do I wanna bomb all these countries for no reason whatsoever, you know? And so, like, I'm digging into these, like, libertarian and anarchist ideas, and I'm like, this is who I've been mine. These are the principles that I learned working in the bar. And somebody was able
Uh,
to explain them in a way that makes sense rather than just like how you learn things, you know what I mean? And these are I'm not crazy, I'm not out of my mind, like this is the proper way people should be. I just didn't know that there was a name for it.
wow. You have I detect in you, this is very interesting. You're very interesting, Nick, and I appreciate you teaching me tonight and sharing. You have a very severe appetite, remarkable for authenticity, and I think you enjoy knowledge,
Yeah.
real knowledge.
Yeah.
I think you probably did a lot of listening as a bartender,
Yeah.
just picking up stuff,
Mhm. Oh
right?
yeah. Dude, there was this night in the bar that I'll never forget my entire life. I was bartending, and there was this couple, they were sitting at the bar and it wasn't busy, and I could just tell they were not having a good night. They were European, so I knew they were on vacation. And I could just tell they were not having a good night. And I like went over to give them like their ticket to leave. And I go, "Hey, what's going on? Like, you guys aren't, you're here on vacation. Why aren't you having fun?" And they weren't arguing. I could tell that they weren't like mad at each other. They were just not having a good time.
Picked up a vibe.
Yeah. And they go, "Well," the woman goes, "Well, my husband has, cancer and he's dying. And this is like our last trip together. And like the only thing that kind of like helps him is marijuana. Like none of the pain meds make him sick. And like he's just been having a rough go on this vacation because like we haven't been able
Wow.
to find any marijuana." And I go, "Give me a second." And at this point I had quit smoking marijuana and I go into the front and I talk to like one of the cooks. I go, "Hey man, you have any pot on you?" And he's like, "What do you want pot for?" I'm like, "Well, there's this couple." And I kind of told him what was going on. And he was like,
It
and
was
I'm
like
like,
you were a Fed.
"Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, no, he knew, like we were friends, but he knew I didn't smoke
Oh,
pot,
okay, okay, okay,
like he
okay,
just knew I
okay.
didn't smoke pot." And I kind of
Right.
told him what was going on. I'm like, "Will you sell these people some pot?" He's like, "Dude, I'm not going to sell these people some pot. I'll just give it to them. And so he goes out and he gives it to them. And they were just like so happy. And he gave them like a joint that was already rolled, or maybe they went outside and smoked pot together. And they came in and like their entire mood changed. And like the guy was feeling better and she was happy that he was feeling better. And like he gave them like a way to go buy more pot while they were there. And they were just like, "Thank you so much. Like this is our final vacation together and you just like made it a good vacation."
Dude, that is epic. The idea, look at that whole equation. The idea that look at how you used a question and you were probing for authenticity in
Yeah.
an open way. She pours into you an incredible situation. You must have dripped a frequency to your
Yeah.
buddy who said, "Look, dude, I don't wanna take advantage of them. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give them some of the South North, that
Yeah.
stuff is rich polyphenols, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying." He said, "I'm gonna give you some of it," and they have great names for it too, right? "I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it to 'em," right?
Yeah.
So look how you put together a little blessing
Yeah.
for a man and woman going through their last hump in life
Yeah. It's the
as a
worst time
couple
in their
as a
life,
couple.
and they went and they figured California will be able to buy weed no problem, and then they could. And it also made me hate the fucking government even more. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Because
okay, I
like you've
can
got this ridiculously evil government that's like regulating what people can and can't use for medicine. It's just sickening,
yeah.
you know?
Dude, that is an incredible story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see more of those activities in the future start to come out from the corporational level. Let me tell you why. One of my business models is I work with founders on corporation creation, story narrative. I have two clients. I have a founder in Florida and I have a founder in Pakistan. They don't know each other, dude. Both of them, one of them's 28, one of them's like 39. In both of their corporations that they're starting, they have designed their payroll already and their distribution of profits. I kid you not, dude. The Pakistani dude has already elevated the starting wage of his corporation, which begins in August. The starting wage for his people is 300% higher than the Pakistani minimum
Yeah.
wage. 300x,
Yeah.
bro. Now, the young American founder has already designed his company 20 years in the future. And guess what? He's not the highest paid employee.
Interesting.
Some of his engineers are going to be making higher paychecks. His average employee will
Hey,
be making about 110.
if you want the
And I
best, you
asked
got to
him,
pay for it, you know?
Dude, well, I asked him why, and he said to me, I'll never forget it, "How are my people gonna live on 50K a year? You can't, dude.
Mhm.
You can't get anywhere on 50, 60K a year. You'll be
Yeah.
chasing your tail forever."
And you know who that reminds me of is Henry Ford.
Like, why?
Well, Henry Ford, people think that unions created the 5-day work week, but it wasn't. It was Henry Ford. He said that I'm not going to
Really?
work my employees to the bone because if I give them a couple days off a week, they're going to have more energy and I'm going to get better output out of them. And also, I'm going to pay them more than normally people would pay them because what are they going to do? They're going to spend their money on one of my cars. If I treat them well, they'll treat me well, and that money is going to come back to me in the form of them buying one of my cars. Because at that point, cars were a luxury item for the rich. Like normal people were still, horse and buggy or whatever, walking, however they were doing. And like a normal person could not afford a car. It was like an airplane today. And so he came in, he created the assembly line, and he goes, I want to make cars for everybody. And if I
Dude,
treat my workers right, they're going to buy one of my cars. And it changed the workplace in the entire world. Now everybody runs on a 5-day work week. Here's another interesting bartending story. So at some point, like after the raise in the minimum wage and they wanted to get rid of our overtime, my boss started bugging me to cut down from 5 days to 4. And I was used to working a lot at that place. I worked 50, 60 hours a week and I made a lot of money working there. And he started like bugging me, hey, can you cut down to 4 days a week? Like, we can't keep paying the overtime. And I was like, no, man, I'm not doing it. Like, you can, if you cut me down, I'm going to find another job and I'll go from 4 days to 2 or 3. Like, that's just how it's going to be. I'm not cutting down. I'm not cutting my wages like that. And then at some point, like, I was making a lot of money and I was doing well. And, I started like taking a day off every couple of like an extra day off. And, I would get my schedule and go, hey, you want to pick up this shift? You want to pick up this shift? And after a couple months, my boss was like, hey, man, you've been working 4 days a week for like 3 months now. Can I just schedule you for 4 days a week? And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's try it. Like, I'll try 4 days a week. I've enjoyed having this third day off. I had 2 days off in a row. And then I had one day off like in between. And it was just nice. Like I enjoyed it. I had more energy. I wasn't as burned out working at the bar. And after a couple months, I realized I was making more money
no way.
because I was not burned out. I was more engaged. I was more willing to be there when I was there. I wasn't looking forward to my days off. I wasn't tired. Like I ended up making more money. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the case in every business. It's not. Like in some
Dude,
businesses, that's just not going to work. But in some, it will.
that is nuts. That's like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I'm working 4 days a week. I make 25% more, you know, a day because I'm not just going through the motions. That adds up.
We need to take this podcast and submit it to the Austrian School of Economics pre-series.
Yeah, right.
Man,
Yeah.
you have taught the samurai much tonight.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't expect that to happen, but it did. The
Well, I
year
didn't
that I
know.
worked 4 days a week, I made the most money I ever made working there.
I may have heard it once, but you really drove home that so Henry Ford plays a pivotal part of giving in order to get.
Yep. He created the 5-day work week. He created the assembly line, and he brought cars to the mass population of people.
That
Very,
is
very, very smart man. And that guy,
interesting.
and most people don't know this, but Henry Ford went bankrupt a bunch of times before he hit big
Really?
with Ford. Oh yeah, a bunch of times. He created a bunch
Really?
of businesses that failed. One of the smartest things I ever heard Patrick Bet David, he said something, and like I don't agree with Patrick all the time, but like he's a smart guy, and I respect like what he
Oh yeah.
does,
Oh yeah.
even if I disagree with some of his takes on things. But he said in America, you have to have 3 rights guaranteed: the right to buy, the right to sell, and the right to fail.
Oh, that's deep. That's damn
You got to
deep.
have the right to fail.
Ooh, that's powerful. You do learn in pain, bro.
Yeah.
Holy cow, you learn. Man, dude, I feel like I just are you gonna give me a certificate for listening to you tonight? Can I put it on
Yeah.
my wall? I went
This has
to
been
the
a good one for me tonight. I've been good
dude, I
tonight.
went to the one-armed madman. Maybe a new title should be Bartending with Palantir. Happy Armageddon Day.
Yeah, something like that. Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Dude, you well, I'm even more encouraged about our future because again, you at the spearhead of the young mind. I'm looking at the 25-year-olds coming behind you. Now, this is why the blob and the reset 2 has been ignited. Now they're hoping to use Palantir to lock your ass down in the next year or two. So you because you're about to spark some curiosity in people. For you to put that statement up on the climate control call,
Yeah.
dude, that's very bold. You're like a damn ideological braveheart.
They didn't know what to do with me in college because I was smarter than my professors and I knew a thing
Yeah,
or two. You know, so they had no idea what to do with me. It
you
was
were
just
probably book dude,
I
your
had
name
a
was
I so like the only like interesting class that I took in college was I took this class on it was on Greek philosophy. And it was focused on fate versus free will. And so like we
Mm.
examined the Theban plays. That was like the big thing. And the Theban plays is about God, what is his name? Um I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but it's the guy who's famous in Greek philosophy for killing his father and marrying his mother.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah,
who I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
so like my whole take on that entire series of plays, it was interesting because like the first play is a prequel. It was written second, but it was published as the first play in the series. So in the first play in the series, like there's this war between city states and the leader of the winning city says you can't bury the dead of the opposite army. And so like one of the nobles daughters within the winning city had brothers on both sides of the war. And so she was like,
Mm,
I don't care what you say, like, I'm going to bury my brother, you know? And so the
mm,
king was like, oh, we're going to kill you because you disobeyed the orders of the king. And like all the people in the class, man, like they didn't understand rights. They thought rights were granted by the government, not endowed to you through nature or God or whatever you want to attribute it to. But they were like, well, if the king says you can't do something, you can't do something. And I'm like, this king's a monster. Like this guy's an absolute monster, and you cannot let him have an inch on this because if he's not going to allow you to bury somebody, like you have bodily autonomy. If you have like burial rights guaranteed to you through your fate, like you are granted that whether you're alive or dead. And that woman has every fucking right to bury her brother. And like just because the king says something does not mean it's just or moral. You know what I mean? And then in the second play, it comes out that this guy's a total tyrant. You know, like I thought he was a tyrant already, but like it was kind of ambiguous if you weren't thinking on the same lines as me. And so then the discussion is like, oh, this guy's a tyrant. He can't be trusted. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What happened to you have to obey the orders of the king from the previous play? You know?
mm.
And like reading these plays, I realized like our fucking ancestors are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And like I know that these plays weren't written for the average person. They weren't written for the average student. You know what I mean? Like they were written for
Yeah.
people who had education and were capable of understanding these principles. But I realized like the ancient Greeks 2000 years ago were more able to tackle these types of questions and these types of problems than our current society is today. And that's a very sad thing. And like by the end of the series, and by the end of the class, my professor sent me a letter. Um, and he was like, you know, your take on these plays, I've been teaching this class for 20 years. You know, he goes, I hear the same shit all day, every day. It's the same thing. And he goes, you're the only unique take I've heard on these plays since I've been teaching. And like I had this take that the guy who married his mother and killed his father was a
Oedipus.
Oedipus.
Yeah,
I thought
Oedipus.
that Oedipus was a con man. That was kind of my take on Oedipus, was that he was a con man. And he wrote me
Right.
in a letter, he was like, "I've never heard that take before. Like, it's a unique take to me, and you could write an entire thesis, like master's thesis on this idea if you wanted to take it out that far." I thought that was pretty
Interesting.
interesting. He was like the only professor I had who gave me credit for being smart. Everybody else just wanted to shut me up.
You I got something positive for you, Nick. It just hit me. In your mind, I see it. I see the ability of your male, your mind, I believe, is gonna be a prototype concept. I'm gonna write an article on this soon. I see in your mind a structure of authenticity, bullshit detection, unmatched. Now, which is going to be remarkable, and I believe give humanity the comeback. Now, where I want to encourage you is on the flip side of you. I spend most of my time on YouTube. I quit watching TV. I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed to tell
I
you
don't even
why.
turn my TV on anymore.
Well, the reason Samurai Rocket Boy doesn't watch TV, this is embarrassing, but I'm gonna come clean. I don't know how the hell to turn it on. And dude, there's 5 controllers.
Yeah, yeah,
We gotta go to the Hulu,
yeah,
Spectrum. I mean, come on, man.
yeah,
So anyway, I have detected, and I'll share this with you. So you are the archetype male spirit animal leading today's youth up to you. Now, what's complementing you, I don't know if you have detected it yet. What's complementing you, and this is why God is so people think they're going to outfool God,
mhm,
Nick, and son, they're going to lose all the time. See, and you don't even realize it, but you're doing God's work in that He created man and women as co creator.
yeah,
So you are playing a pivotal part. What you did as a bartender to that couple is key. That's a godly work.
yeah,
The idea that you would have such active empathy, almost in a Jesus type way of like, dude, what's up? Like,
yeah,
really, what's up? I'm here to do something about it.
yeah,
So you're doing that as the male prototype. What I have detected on YouTube is two remarkable young females. One is about 27. She's from England. She lives in LA now. This little wild animal, I think her name is Florence Givens. She is one of the most dangerous little wild asses ever to grace humanity. She's extremely audacious. She's giving the female mind audacity again, Nick. The idea that humans need to stop feeling guilty about wanting things
mhm,
to get your ass to dreaming again.
yeah, yeah,
Why can't you go play anymore?
yeah,
Why can't you color outside the damn line?
yeah, and I think
Why is
it's
that a
and I think it's really
go ahead.
important for people to be grounded in a philosophical background, you know?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm lucky, like, that's kind of why I was able to go through college in the way that I did, because I have a background in libertarian philosophy, you know?
Okay.
And I feel like, you know what actually would be a good book for you? There's a book written by Nick Bostrom. He's a philosopher, and he wrote a book about artificial intelligence. It's called
I like that.
Superintelligence. Yeah, it's interesting
Yeah.
because he looks at it from a philosophical point of view. Another good book that I should recommend to people. There's a book called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels and Fossil Future.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it's interesting. Like
Oh, I
he
like
he
that.
he's he says like fossil fuels are the greatest, asset to human flourishing in the history of the world. Cheap access to fossil fuels and capitalism has brought in, in the last 50 years, like, it's brought in half the world out of extreme poverty. It's interesting. So, like, I think that, like,
Interesting.
people should have a moral background in philosophy in some way because, like,
Yeah,
if you don't know what you believe in or why you believe it, then how are you able to tackle these major problems of the world? Like, I believe in bodily autonomy and the non-aggression principle. Those are the basis of human liberty and libertarian philosophy, and, like, you can apply those principles to anything. And as long as you
right,
apply them, like, in a consistent way, you're gonna be on the
right.
right side of things.
Interesting. Yeah, please. Well, and I'll help you set this up, Nick. Maybe you can start making notes during every 30 days. Why don't you start dripping out an infographic of what you're reading, what you're looking, what you're feeling?
Yeah.
Because,
I read
dude,
a
it's
lot of
very
sci-fi, to be honest. I don't really read much fiction. I read nonfiction only, but, I read a ton of sci-fi, and I think sci-fi is
no,
good
hold
s
on, hold on, hold on, hold
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
You just said something that doesn't make sense to my old mind. You said you read nonfiction.
Yeah.
Don't read. Talk. What do you read?
I read science fiction.
But you said, I thought you said, so you don't read
I don't read
nonfiction.
fiction anymore. No, I've read some fiction books in my day, like, I've read some economics books, I've read some books about philosophy, but anymore, like, I know what I believe, I don't need to be convinced of my
Oh, so you're not reading any more nonfiction?
I read only nonfiction.
But hold on, then you told me you're reading science fiction.
Yeah, that's all I read is science. Oh, excuse me. I said
It's
it
science
backwards.
fiction.
I said it backwards. No,
Okay.
I don't read any nonfiction anymore. I just read fiction. I just read science fiction. And I think science fiction is good because, like, it can transport you to a different world and you can think how things ought to be rather than how they are, you know? And it can allow your mind to, like, think freely about, like, huh, like military science fiction, for instance. I'm not a huge fan of military science fiction, but I do read it from time to time because it's like, okay, you've got this war between, an alien race and humanity. Who's justified in that war and why are they justified? Does this, human civilization have the right to go and colonize this planet? Type of thing. And
Right.
and it makes you think in different ways than nonfiction
Oh,
would.
Nick, you have really been educated. You've been feeding me. You've been planning in my mind how I'm going to reach the youth, and this has been absolutely invaluable. Now, um, as far as I wanted to say something to you as a man to man. I think I'm proud of you because I think very similar to you, I have also built a body of analog books and some electronic
Yeah.
resources where I have a pretty good working model in my mind of authentic reality. Now, I wanted to applaud you by dabbling in science fiction. I'll tell you why. R.C. Sproul, one of the late great Protestant pastors of the world, I had the honor and privilege of sitting in his congregation as a young man for many years. Did you know that in his once he was established and when he was in his 45 to his later years, every week, Nick, um, Dr. Sproul, he's the Billy Graham type Presbyterian equivalent. Dr. Sproul, Nick, once a week read a novel.
Interesting.
And the reason he did it, I think categorically was I think he gave his mind time to mine other doctrines.
Yeah.
It was playtime for his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I checked my listening stats on Audible recently. I didn't know they had stats. I was just kind of screwing around on Audible because I listen to books every night. I have a hot tub and I sit in my hot tub at night and I listen to
But do
science
do
fiction.
you listen over reading analog or what?
Yeah, I do. I do. I like
Okay.
listening better.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I like the theater of the mind. I like being able to, like, let my mind drift while I'm thinking about these things. And I have like over 4 months of listening to science fiction on Audible at this point.
Over what time period?
Probably 3 or 4 years, something like that. Maybe a little longer, maybe 5 years, something like that. I think I was actually thinking recently, I've got a guy who's been on the podcast a couple times who's a writer. He writes cyberpunk, and I'm gonna be one of his editors on the next book. I'm gonna be one of his pre-readers, so I'll go through the book and say, "You should change this, you should change that." And I'm thinking about, like, starting a business where I read people's science fiction for them and then, like, edit it for content before they publish.
Dude, I think that is cool. Or why don't you also could maybe do you could as knowledgeable as you are, one of the things I detected in you today, I didn't know, I think you're actually getting into a sequence with daily information where you're going to be able to identify the little psyops in their formation
Yeah,
period, like when they're little winds, like when a hurricane gets together.
yeah,
So what you could do, just as an idea, this incredible knowledge you have as a sentinel, as a beacon to detect these things, you could have a podcast where every week you could share signals you've detected. And why don't you do this, Nick? This would be fun. The rest of the time, why don't you tell us what Star Trek episode it reminds you of? And let me tell you why, Nick. If you could start inlaying your political insights with entertainment,
yeah,
art, what it does is, I think you've already read my mind, it makes you so magnetic and powerful from the standpoint of, for example, if you were going to tell me something about what just happened, where we just blew up another hospital in Iran in a city, that's great. But dude, if you tied it to something in Star Wars, now you've hit my mind.
yeah. Yeah, I try and do that. My mind doesn't always work that way, unfortunately. Like I have a fairly bad memory since I've gotten hurt, so I don't really like link to TV shows very much when I'm thinking about this type of stuff for some reason. And to be honest, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan.
But something else in your world where you're
Yeah, no,
hot.
I get what you mean. I try and bring in my insights from science fiction throughout like every episode, you know. I've been interviewing a
Good.
lot more like science fiction writers. I think I've interviewed like 20 of them at this point.
Oh,
And it's
I'm
like,
gonna go back and
yeah, I have a whole
I
playlist on
think it's a
YouTube.
fascinating area because, of course, in science fiction, it's really a story of the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel of like all the sci-fi authors that I've interviewed so far. And that's one of my favorite things to do is actually interview sci-fi. I wish there was an easier way to get them on the podcast because if I could do one a week of sci-fi authors, they're hard to find sometimes. Like I'll read a book on Amazon and I'll be like, "Oh, I'd like to interview this guy." Then you can't find an email address for him and a lot of them don't do interviews. So I wish I could get like a weekly podcast where I just did one a week with sci-fi authors because I think that would be a great podcast for me, but I just don't have enough like content to be able to fill that at
Sure.
this
Are
point.
are are the men and women writers of science fiction not wanting to give away juice? Are they afraid it's gonna
I don't know.
on what is that?
I don't know. And a lot to be honest, a lot of them aren't good on podcasts. Not all of the science fiction authors that I've interviewed have been good on podcasts. It's hard for them because a lot of times writers are introverts and they have a hard time like expressing their thoughts verbally and they have a hard time like putting themselves out on a podcast. So like my favorite thing to do with them is just have a discussion, just talk about whatever like we are. But a lot of times they want to fall back and tell you exactly what happened in the book. And it's like, look, man, you're if you're just telling the listener exactly what happens in the book, you're not giving them a reason to buy it. Like you want to get them interested in you as a person. How do you think? What are you interested in? And if they like you as a person, if they find you interesting, then they're just going to go out and buy the book because they want to know more. Where like it's tough. It's hit or miss a lot of times.
Damn, you're good. You'd be a good producer. Just saying that.
Yeah.
Man, I don't wanna take. I know you've been so generous with your time.
It's all good.
Do you want me to wind up my take?
Sure, go for it. Get out of here. I
Bro
got to go make some dinner at
brother
some point tonight.
Brother Nick, first of all, I wanna thank you for the authentic trip we took this evening. I wanna
Absolutely.
thank you for pouring into me authentically, raw, human to human, man to man. Um, okay, tribe listening, I want you to be encouraged. If you look at how Nick is operating as a young man, be encouraged. I see a similar ethos from the female animal that God created. Y'all are coming. You've got to maintain right now. Now shit's gonna get bad, y'all. This is reset to where this is the theater we're in. The deep state's gonna try to jar you into being a slave. You will
Yeah,
not accept this directive. Good things are coming, y'all. Be like Nick. Watch Nick get his vibration. The female spirit's coming too. God will not be mocked. Final word to you, to the tribe, to the next tribe. I want you to start talking to God today. I want you to say two things to God every day. This is going to make you beautiful monsters, beautiful boy and girl Godzillas. Look, you're just going to say to God, you creator God, man, thank you for loving me and having my back. Simple fact. And then you're going to say, in the second little set, this is you're talking to the head coach here. God, what do you want me to know today? Get chill, y'all. Don't be so serious. You gotta look, in order for big players to make big plays in big games, man, you gotta be ready to bring it. So relax, get loose. You're like Jerry Rice now, Joe Montana. God, what do you want me to know? Comma, what do you want me to do
yeah.
today?
Help
Y'all,
me,
slow it
help
down.
me to be an instrument for good.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. 100%. How do I be like Nick was in the bar that night where he took time from his schedule for no money to really say he had detected an off vibe? What gives? And look at the sequence of healing that Nick was able to pour on a couple trying to love on each other till one of them died. This makes God happy. Nick, thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. We should do this more often,
Dude,
every couple months.
dude, dude, you are a monster of a man. You're gonna raise some lovely hell. You're gonna chase evil to the gates of
I
hell
do my
will
best
be
because I
eh,
was an instrument for evil in my earlier days. So
well,
I
praise
try and
God,
do
you
my
learn it.
best.
Nick, you're gonna scare the devil. They're gonna put out a call for reinforcements at the gates of hell.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a
Man,
pleasure, and we'll do this again soon. All right. Good night.